The weeping shadow, the old oak stood on the hill, alone. Twisted branches clawed at the sky, a dark silhouette against the setting sun. One moonless night, Thomas wandered too close. He had heard the whispers, the stories of the tree that drank blood. A cold wind whipped around him. He felt a chill, a presence. He saw her then, a woman in white, weeping. As he stepped closer, she turned, her face pale, eyes hollow. He ran. He didn't stop until he reached the town. Whispers in the dark. The blood tree had always been there, a silent sentinel overlooking the town. Some said it was a witch hanged for her crimes. Others, a scorned lover driven to suicide. Her spirit, forever bound to the tree, condemned to wander, to weep. The stories varied, the details changed, but the essence remained the same. A tragic death, an unquiet spirit, a place of fear, and the blood, always the blood. Some whispered that the tree's bark was stained crimson, that it thirsted for human blood, that it drew sustenance from the lifeblood of its victims, fueling its own unnatural growth. These tales were often dismissed as folklore, the ramblings of superstitious minds. But the fear was real, and the stories persisted, passed down through generations, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the edge of town. Blood on the bark. The townsfolk avoided the blood tree. They kept their distance. Their children were warned never to go near it. But curiosity has a way of overcoming fear, especially in the young. One crisp autumn day, a group of boys dared each other to approach the tree. They were young, their bravado fueled by youthful ignorance. They crept closer, their hearts pounding in their chests. As they reached the base of the tree, one of the boys pointed. There, on the rough bark, was a dark stain. It was the color of dried blood. The boys exchanged nervous glances. The air grew heavy, oppressive. They ran. The stain remained, a chilling testament to the tree's dark reputation. Was it truly blood, or simply a trick of the light? The answer, it seemed, was lost to the shadows. The face in the tree. The blood tree was a living nightmare. Its branches twisted and turned, forming grotesque shapes. Some swore they could see faces in the bark, eyes that seemed to follow them, mouths frozen in silent screams. One night, a young woman named Mary found herself lost in the woods. She had wandered too far from town, lured by the promise of wildflowers. As darkness fell, she panicked. The trees seemed to close in around her. She stumbled through the undergrowth, desperate for a way out. And then she saw it, the blood tree, looming over her like a monstrous specter. She tried to run, but her legs wouldn't obey. She was rooted to the spot, paralyzed by fear. As she stared at the tree, she noticed something. A face, staring back at her from the bark. It was a woman's face. Her eyes were wide with terror. Her mouth was open in a silent scream. Mary screamed too. Section 5. A gathering place for ghosts. The blood tree had a strange allure. Despite its sinister reputation, people were drawn to it. Some came to pay their respects, to leave offerings at its base. Others came to seek answers, to commune with the spirits. It was said that the veil between worlds was thin near the tree. People whispered of strange lights and disembodied voices. One night, a group of townsfolk gathered at the tree, led by an old woman who claimed to have the gift of sight. She began to chant as the moon rose. Her voice echoed through the night. The air grew cold. A sense of dread settled over the group. A faint whisper, a rustling in the leaves. A cold spot seemed to follow them as they watched in fear. The blood tree was a silent observer, or so they thought. But on one stormy night it found its voice. The wind howled through its branches, whipping the leaves into a frenzy. Rain lashed down, drenching the ground. A young couple, seeking shelter from the storm, huddled beneath the tree's meager protection. They were young, their love a beacon of warmth in the cold, dark woods. They clung to each other, their hearts beating in unison. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning struck the tree. The sound was deafening. The couple looked up in terror as the tree shuddered, and then they heard it, a voice, deep and resonant. It seemed to emanate from the very heart of the tree. Beware, it boomed, the sound echoing through the night. Beware the darkness that consumes. The couple, terrified, fled into the storm. They never spoke of that night again, but the memory of the tree's voice haunted their dreams. The blood tree's roots ran deep. They snaked through the earth, reaching out like grasping claws. Some said they extended all the way to the old graveyard on the edge of town, that they drew nourishment from the bodies buried there. The graveyard was a somber place, overgrown with weeds and shrouded in perpetual shadow. The headstones were weathered and worn, the inscriptions barely legible. It was a place of remembrance and of fear. One day, a gravedigger made a gruesome discovery. As he was digging a new grave, his shovel struck something hard. He brushed away the dirt and recoiled in horror. It was a human bone, but it was strangely discolored, stained a deep crimson as if it had been soaked in blood. The gravedigger fled, his mind racing. He had heard the stories, of course, but he had always dismissed them as superstition. Now he wasn't so sure. The blood tree's secrets remained elusive. Despite the stories, the legends, and the fear, no one had ever been able to prove the truth behind its dark reputation. Was it truly a place of evil, or simply a natural wonder twisted by time and myth? A young historian, fascinated by the tree's lore, decided to investigate. He spent months poring over old documents, searching for any mention of the tree. He interviewed townsfolk, listened to their stories, and recorded their accounts. He discovered that the blood tree had been a source of fascination, fear, and superstition for centuries. There were accounts of strange occurrences dating back generations, but nothing concrete, no definitive proof. He began to suspect that the truth was lost to time, that the blood tree's secrets would remain forever shrouded in shadow. The blood tree still stands on the hill, a silent sentinel overlooking the town. The stories continue to be told, whispered around campfires, shared in hushed tones. a chilling reminder of the darkness that lies just beneath the surface. The tree has become a part of the town's identity, a symbol of its history, its folklore, and its enduring fascination with the unknown. It is a place of fear, of wonder, and of enduring mystery. And so, the legend of the blood tree lives on, passed down from generation to generation, a chilling tale of love, loss, and the enduring power of belief.